Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're going to be playing the Constable. Now, it's a recommendation actually by one of the channel's regular viewers, Julia, and I can't help but do this, Julia, so apologies. Perhaps she was intending, subconsciously of course, to promote my Patreon channel. For the acute viewers amongst you, you may have noticed that essentially all of the different tiers to support the channel on Patreon use different police ranks. And the first one actually used to be Constable, which is the starting rank here in the UK police force. However, actually, I ended up downgrading it because Patreon allows you to actually have a free tier where I do actually post the occasional puzzle there. And of course, Constable is a junior rank, but in no way is it appropriate for me to say the free tier is Constable. So I did end up rebranding it as the Community Support Officer. So if you do see that at the very end of the video, what does PCSO stand for? That is essentially the expansion of that acronym. Now you can see just very briefly before we get into today's puzzle that Sleuth here is standing outside some sort of warehouse, probably looking to ambush some criminal ring organization, and standing right next to him is a constable. They normally are dressed in full police uniform. Perhaps today is just a cold day, as it's been recently here in the UK, and they're dressed up to make sure that they are indeed warm. One quick thing about today's puzzle. So it does use a Sudoku variant rule that we haven't featured on this channel before. It's not uncommon, I have seen it a few times before, but I've always looked at it and I thought it looks a bit too complicated and passed. But with a recommendation, and let me just have a look, I think at the time of recording, 91% rating. It's time for us to deep dive into this. Let's take a look at today's puzzle and the rule sets. So, we've got the Constable by Scojo. First off, we've got Irregular Sudoku. So place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row. That's not a row, that's a row. Every column and every outlined region. And obviously the regions here can be different, but they should all be 9 cells and should all have the digits 1 to 9 once each. Then we have the XV rule set. An X between 2 cells indicates that the digits in those cells sum up to 10. I actually see none on the grid. I'll come to that in a second. A V between 2 cells indicates that the digits in those cells sum to 5. So if this was a 2, for example, this would have to be 3 to make sure that these 2 cells that have a V between them sum up to 5. Now, here is why Scojo talked about the X. Cells without an X or a V between them must not sum up to 5 or 10. So that 2, for example, can't have an 8 in here. That would be a no-no. That would add up to 10, and there is no X between them. That 3 here can't have a 7. In fact, can't have a 2 next to it because that would require a V there. And again, no V, therefore the negative constraint applies. So I absolutely love XV negative constraints. If you've watched my regular solves of these, and I highly recommend that you actually check out this XV playlist here. There's a bunch of phenomenal puzzles on there. But no, today we're playing Japanese sums, and the colors as a result are going to have to be reserved for these. So Japanese sums, the colored circles outside the grid indicate the orders of runs of contiguous cells found in that row or column that must be shaded the color of the clue. Okay, so essentially there's a run in here that is blue, there's a run in here that is blue. So, based on these colors, I'm going to reserve the blues, the oranges, the purples for these colors. It continues. The numbers in the clue indicates the sum of the cells in the run, and there must be at least one unshaded cell between runs of the same color, though there is no need between runs of different colors or differing colors. So essentially what that's saying is, in here I have 2 sets of blue cells that each sum up to 12. Between them, there has to be an unshaded cell. I'm going to go with gray with this, dark gray, so it's visible across everything. And I guess because we're adding up to 12, the rest of this is going to have to be grey. And essentially, these three cells add up to 12. Let's say 3, 4, 5. These, that's a bad example. 1, 4. Am I just making up something that's not going to work? 7 and 3, 9. So that would be a valid set of pencil marks and colors. Actually, not entirely, and I'll come onto why in a second, because it does say in a moment the question marks as a clue presents an any unknown total and all runs are given. So there can't be a blue in this column because there shouldn't be any blue cells. There should only be an orange cell, a number of orange cells that sum up to 9. So in fact, that's not entirely correct. If I change that a little bit, that would now be correct. If you're feeling a bit confused, I admit that could be partially my explanation, but it's one of the reasons why I've not necessarily visited the Japanese sum puzzles before. But nevertheless, this will be my first. Wish me luck. And certainly, if you want to participate, well, first off, I should say, if you want to become a constable, well, you can't anymore on the Patreon, but you can absolutely join there and support the channel. But you can solve the constable puzzle with the link in the description down below as usual. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. So if you're feeling a little bit confused, maybe stick around for the first few minutes of the solve. That would help you just see how we get on. So I'm going to sort of apply that all runs are given statement fairly literally. I think that does mean that there are no colored cells up here because, as you can see in the row, all runs are given. There's no runs here. That all has to be gray. Same is true for row 9. Then I'm looking at, actually, column 5 is quite interesting. Because the way I'm seeing it is on the rows, there are only 3 rows that have orange. And then obviously there is only orange in column 5. So the way I'm reading this is these 3 cells have to be orange because we do have orange in these 3 rows. And they're exactly in column 5 because there is no orange in any of the remaining Japanese sum circles. Now, the reason I'm also going to stick to only 3 cells is if you go for 4 cells, well, that would be a minimum of 1, 2, 3, 4. That would add up to 10, which is too big for 9. So 3 cells that are orange is indeed the absolute maximum here. And the rest of these have to be gray. And I think this is probably going to be helpful. Yeah, you can see, for example, for row 7, that does mean that there is essentially a blue, a purple, and a blue. We need to figure out the grays. There's likely grays here because 7 and 8, we can't really go beyond 3 cells. So once we find these 3 cells, we could probably color a huge amount of the grid. This is a very long run of numbers, though. No, that's blue, purple, blue. That's easy. Oh, there you go. Row 3. Notice that we now need to include a 17. And this is, I think this is going to be forced. Yeah, this is entirely forced. So I'm just going to color this in and explain why this is forced. So between the 17 and the 11, we need to have a gray cell, which this one could be it. Obviously, there could be others. There's nothing that says that this is limited to only one gray cell. However, 17 is at minimum 2 cells. Then there's at least 1 purple cell, and then there's at least 1 more blue cell. And essentially, that basically says that's the absolute minimum / maximum that you can do here on the left-hand side to fit in 6, purple, and 17. And then on the right-hand side, we've got 11, which again has to be in 2 cells, then a purple cell, then a 5 that is blue. So this is entirely forced, and it's actually going to give us our first set of digits at minute 3. This is 8, 9 to add up to 17. This is a 6. This is a 5 because they're only in one cell. This has to be 4, 7 because 9, 2, 8, 3, and 5, 6 are all gone. So that's 4, 7. That leaves us a remainder of 1, 2, 3, and we have digits and pencil marks. This is 2, 3, 4 across from the... Just something I'm going to have to be very conscious of as we solve is keeping in mind that the XV constraints are all given. So, if this is a 1, that can't be a 9, for example. And if this is a 7, that can't be a 3. So we're going to have to keep an, watchful eye for that. "21 has to be done in at least 3 cells. So I have essentially these 4 cells to choose 3 of them, at least 3 of them, that add up to 21. So these 2 have to be blue. You see, because I don't know the totals for row 9. Actually, here it is. Again, I did say columns 1 and columns 9 are going to be helpful because 7 and 8 are very restricted. So there's a 1 around that 6 somewhere. We'll figure out where in a bit. But essentially, that's the end of my blue in column 1. Once this is a 1, that will add up to 7, and then the rest of it has to be grey. The grey doesn't quite go as far because I could do something cheeky like 1, 2 in here, but all of these have to be grey, and I imagine, yes, row 7 now is forced. That's blue, that's purple, that's blue, that's blue, that's purple, and that's blue, and we can probably take a look at the columns now and have a bit of a break. Let's have a think about this. Yeah, so, I hope that's fairly self-explanatory why this is forced. We need these 3 different colors. We need an unshaded cell between the 2 blues, and then we need, again, these 3 different colors. And these are gray because, obviously, I can't have that to be blue because that would require all of these digits to sum up to 7, which is impossible. And all of these digits would sum up to 8, again, impossible. And I think the columns definitely are looking interesting now. One thing I could just do very quickly is columns 4, all of these are blue because it's 1 run. All of these are blue in column 6. 17 can't be done in a single cell, so this is at least another blue. And yeah, I'll definitely look at the columns now. I've put it off long enough. So I think once again we are probably, yeah. You can see in column 7 we need to have a blue at the end. That's the only blue that goes below the purple. Then we need a blue that adds up to 7. It could be 1 cell, could be 2 cells, but I'm fairly sure it's not 3 because it would leave no room for purple, and I think purple is going to have to be this cell. Can't verify it with rows 5's kind of clues, but that's the only way that this would be possible. Yep. Then this would have to be blue because 16 can't be done in 1 cell. This would have to be a 7. This would have to be a 9 to add up to 16. This would be the 4. This can't be a 3 anymore, so this can't be a 1 either. That's a 2-3 pair. This 7 and 9 means that's not a 7, which is relevant for this clue. So this is at least 2 cells. That's another blue. What more can I do here? I'm tempted to say this is grey, and yeah, it is grey. I need 15 with a grey cell, then 12, then a purple cell, then blue, and that's entirely forced because 12 has to require at least 2 cells. These are the 2 cells. This is the grey cell. Then these are the 2 cells that add up to 15. And yeah, that's looking good. 21 unfortunately can be across 4 cells, so this could be blue, this could be blue. I'm not too sure. I know I should actually do some Sudoku. This is what the puzzle is after all, but I'm enjoying the coloring a bit too much. Last one in column 3 is blue. Notice that this is a 3. I'll come back to pencil marking in a bit. Then I need... Well, again, this is forced, and I'll show you. You need a 17, which is at least 2 cells, then a purple, so it's essentially something that looks like this. Then blue that adds up to 8, then purple again. Now, 17 in 2 cells means that this is another 8, 9. No 8s in here means this is not a single cell 8. That's also blue. And we're basically done with coloring this column. This 9 can, of course, let's do a bit of Sudoku now and tidy up. This is 9, this is 8. This is not a 1 next to the 9. Only place left for a 1 is in here. I'll come back to the 8 and 9 in a second. There was something, yeah, this is 1, 2, or 3. So the 3 in here could be across 2 cells. So one of these could be 1, 2, the other one could be 1, 2. The other way is, of course, this could be a 3, in which case neither of these are blue. But we don't know that yet. We kind of need to think probably about this column to figure this out in a bit. 15 in 2 cells, this is 6, 7, 8, or 9. 6 or 9 is one pair, 7 or 8 is the other. 12 in 2 cells, we'll come back to that. I haven't really exhausted, so yeah, 15, let's do that next. And there has to be a grey between, yeah, 15 has to be at least in 2 cells. These are the 2 cells. Then it has to have a grey between it and the 6. This 6 could be in 2 cells. But if it is in 2 cells, so one option is obviously it's just 1 cell and this is a 6. The other option would be 5 with a 1 in here, and that would end up being blue, and this would have to be 2. The last option would be 4 with a 2 and a 1. Now I say the last option because obviously I can't do 3 and 3. That's nonsense. Didn't mean to do that. I also don't think I can do a 2, because if that's 2, that would be 4 and blue, which would break the 3. So 4, 5, 6 is the complete pencil mark for this cell. Do I want to think about the 13? Not really. 17 is 3 cells, 21. I'm sort of getting to the point where I probably should focus more on Sudoku. I say that often, but then I don't, and I end up drifting and thinking about something else. Right, so let's think maybe about the 8 and 9. I did say I will come back to them. In fact, this has to be blue, just column 2. The last one here is not a purple. This has to be blue. Now it has to contribute towards the 12. So the most obvious example would be 4, and this is 8 and 4, and it's done. That's 12. Now the question I'm asking myself is, one thing it can't be is a 2. That would get me to 10. Then I would need a second 2 in the same row. Obviously that doesn't work to get to 12. But can I do something like 1, 3? It doesn't have to be in that order. That could be 1, 3 and then 1, 3 in here. Well, I'm wondering if it breaks this clue. Because this 9 here needs either a 3, and it's not 1, 2, because I've already placed the 1 in the same region. So this is forced. That's a 3. That means that's not 1, 3. That's a 4. These 2 are done. These 2 are also done. The 8 in here means that has to be blue. And that could be 1, 2, or 3. It's either a 3, or if this is 1, 2, that would be a second 1, 2 to add up to 3. That's not a 1. That would make a 5. That is a 1. That's not a 1. Doesn't exactly help me here, but that is now blue. I was really hoping I could fully color this. I'm not sure I can. That's not a 4. So yeah, that could still be 1 or 2. And the 13 is not very helpful. Right, so I have said this enough. It is really time to do some Sudoku. Irregular Sudoku, I tend to not be brilliant at. But for example, where does 8 go in row 1? Well, it's not in this region where there's already an 8. It's also not in this region where there's already an 8. 8 has got to be up here. Just in general, thinking about this region, it has a lot of the cells complete. Same question for 4. 4 is not here, 4 is not there, because, you know, the 8 is right next to it. That's a 4-8 pair. Leaving us with 2, 5, and 6, I'm going to say. Except that's not a 5. That can't be a 2, because we need to get these 2 cells to add up to 12. That's not a 2. And it's not a 6. 6 would require a second 6 to add up to 12. That's the 5. That's a 7. That breaks out 15. That is now 6, 9. That 5, that's not a 5. That's a 2, 6 pair now. That probably allows me to actually think about what these are. This is 1, 5, 7 to complete the row. That's not a 1. So I paused there for a second, thinking that I probably should think about the 9 now. I really haven't thought about it. Now, one option is 2, 3, 4. No, it's not an option anymore, because that would break this cell. So therefore, if it's not 2, 3, 4, there has to be a 1 in here. And then it's either 1, 6 and a 2, or 1, 5 and a 3. Yes, this is how I got onto it. For a second, I lost track of why was I looking at this, and the answer is because it was 1, 5, 7. I was thinking, could that be a 1? It isn't. That is the 1. 15. This is 8, 9. This is 6, 7. This is the 8, 9. That's not a 2 next to the 3. That's a 6. That's a 2. That can't be a 4 next to the 6. That's the 8. That's a 4. Yeah, there's loads of negative XV constraints. I'd be very tempted to try and solve it without it, but I'm guessing Scojo probably needed to add it at the end there to prevent some sort of, you know, 2 different possible solutions or something. One thing that I admit sometimes I get tempted to do when it comes to irregular Sudokus is switch on pencil marking check, because scanning is really way harder when it's set up like this. Way harder. So I could be staring right at the screen right now and I can't seem to see which ones are in conflict. And if that is the case, I do apologize. This is 2 or 8 just to complete the column. I don't see any negative constraints helping me here. Do we need to think about the 8s next? So the 16 is done, the 7 in 2 cells. So this is either 1, 6, 2, 5, or 3, 4. And yeah, it's not 2, 5. That's 5 is in the same region, so that's not 2, 5. That can't be a 4 because we're adding up to an 8. So that's not a 4, 4. That would be nonsense. If that's not a 4, that's not a 3. So that's the pencil marking for 7. What else is in here? Okay, let me just see if I've done all the numbers. I've done the 7. Yeah, that's done. The 15 and 6, not entirely. 8 in 2 cells. Do I really want to do this now? Sort of being forced to, aren't I? Let's come back to this. This is done. 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 Yeah, kind of done. The 12 and the 15. Yeah, that's done. The 8. 8 is not done. Could that be a 1 and a 2. Don't know. 12, 12 is done. 6, 17, 11, 5. That was our break. 3 and 13. So there's still quite a few things I haven't really thought about. So I may have to do this next. Bit regrettable because that is a ton of possible values. Right. Options. 1, 7, 2, 6, 3, 5. So many. No, this cannot be the next step. 8 and 9 in here would leave me with a sum of 8 or 9 in here. And 1, 7 is not on the table because we already placed a 7. So this is, I'm doing it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I can go a bunch of different combinations to get there. That's not a 1. Yeah, this is... Maybe this is the step to progress. So I'm just going to stare at the screen a bit and just see if I'm missing something. The answer is usually yes. 13 clues. I could have a 4 with a 9 and end it there. I can't have a 7, so if this is 6, it would require all of these to be blue. The fact that the 2, 3 is placed is interesting. So the rest of these are... Where does 8 go in here? I could have an 8 in there, can't I? In fact, I have to have an 8 in here. Just irregular Sudoku. No 8 in any of these. No 8 in here. I need an 8 in this shape. That's an 8. Where does 8 go now in kind of this center box, unusually a square? There has to be an 8 in there. The rest of this is 6, 7... Let me just think about this. 6, 7, another 6, 7, a 9, and a 4. 4 again is not in here. I am going to fully pencil mark this row, actually. So 6, 7, 9, and 4. That's not a 4. That's not a 9. Doesn't seem to cause me any issues or necessarily help me. So I'm going to just delete this. It's noise right now. It's not helping. You know, right, maybe what I should do is just some irregular Sudoku. I'm not doing it, and I should be. So we've done one region. What is this region? What have I got left? So I know that there is a 9 in here. The 2 is also in there. This is also a helpful region. I've got 4 of them done. Where does 5 go? 5's in one of 3 cells. So I've done 9, 8, 7 has to be in here. Just because it's not in the rest of the column. 6 is done. 5 is in one of 3 cells. 4 is not here, there. Yeah, depending on what this is, it could be there or here. Same for 3. Is it the same for 3? No. Sort of. Yeah. So essentially, if this is 4, that would be 3 to add up to 7. The 4 would then be forced to join with the 4, 7, and then the 3 can't be in here, it would be in there. So interesting. 2 is forced. 2 has to be here in this region. They're not there. Not there. There's a 2 in here. And then 1, again, sort of dependent. Actually, no, 2 is already placed. Sorry about that. So I've got a loose, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. That covers everything. 9 in the top. Can do a bit better. I've got essentially a 2, 3, 5, 7. And then I have 9, 6, and 1. I have 1, 6, 9 in here, all in the top. So 1, 6, 9 plus 5, 7 or 2, 3. So these are going to be the 5, 7 or 2, 3, which is ironic. Hang on, I did say 6. 6. No 6, no 6, no 6. That's a 6. That's a 9. That's a 5, which is big. That's a 1. That's a 2. No 1 or 2 in here. We'll figure out what that means for the 13 probably next. Does that give me anything with a 2 or 3? No. That 9 means I have an 8 remaining. That is a lot more helpful. It's not 1, 7. It is potentially 2, 6 or 3, 5. Not a 2, not a 6. I almost have a quadruple here. Almost. 9, no 9s. 9s in general, I've done a lot of them, haven't I? Where does 9 go in column 1? It's got to be down here. Column 3 is done. Okay. That 6 I haven't actually used that much. How about take all of these off the table? Can't be a 4 next to the 6. That's a 7. That's a 9. That's a 4. Can't be a 3 next to the 7. Can't be a 5 anymore. That's a 2, 3 pair. Essentially, I have another 5, 6 somewhere in here, plus an 8 and a 7. Where does 7 go? It's in one of 2 cells. What's the rest of it? Oh, well, there's 6. Gives me a 5, gives me a 3. Sleuth, pay attention. Sort of a recurring theme, really. 3, 5, 7 up here. That's not a 5. I did say 3, 5, 7. That's the 3 in there. Now actually added. So 7, 5, 6, and 8. It's all right. We'll figure out what that means in a second. The rest of this, we're getting close. That's not an 8. The 8 has to be. In fact, that's 17. That is 17. We've done that. The 8, that gives me another 3, which actually gives me another 5, ironically, with that 8. That would have been deadly if it wasn't for that XV. So that's probably the reason why. Obviously, once I placed the 2, that should have been known that this is 1, 6. And these are 7 and 8. And that's the only place for an 8. That's the only place for a 7. Yeah, I think we're going to solve this. 7 and 8 already at 15. So if this is a 1, that would be a 5. That's not a 1 because it's not a 5. If this is a 4, that would be a 2. That's still possible. So I can't confirm that this is a 6. It's likely a 6, but it's not known yet. The fact that I removed a 1 in here means that's not a 6 anymore. If I can type. It's not a 3 either because there is a 7. So that's 1. That's 6. That ends this run. This has to be a 3 now to actually add up to 5. Sorry, to 8, excuse me. That's 9. We've very nearly colored everything. Yeah, that has to be grey now because we've done the 3. And we can probably not far off doing this either. How about I just finish the rest of the grid though, come back to it, and I'm sure the 13 is there and relevant for the bottom half, but we should be able to solve the top half now without thinking about it just yet. And I keep putting off the irregular Sudoku, but no more. I am going to do it. No 2, no 2, no 2 because it can't be next to the 8. So I'm just going to fully pencil mark the remaining options and just do the hard work. So I still need a 1, a 6, a 2, 1, 2, 6, a 5, 7, and a 9. Not 1, not 1 next to a 9, not 2, not 2, not 1 next to the 4 either. I've done that. What else? What else? What else? Come on, Sleuth. No 9s. No 9s. That can't be a 7 next to the 3. That would have been helpful to do before I pencil marked everything like that. That's a 7, that's a 3, that's a 5. These are not 5s. That's not a 7 next to this 3. It's 1 or 6. That's not a 6 next to the 4. That's not a 9 next to the 1. This is not 1 or 6 because they're already in the column. This 2 regrettably doesn't put any real pressure on here. It's not creating any triplets, pairs, anything. Hasn't quite worked. In the column we need 1, 6 and something else. 1, 6 and a 4. 1 can't be in here because of this 1. So this is 4 or 6. This is 1, 4 or 6. This column next maybe, they're both in the same region. This is, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 5. No, we've got 5. We need 7 and 8. And this is, well, this is not a 6. Where does 6 go inside this region? It can only be in here. That's a 6. That's a 1. That's a 4. And to complete this, this is... No, I made a mistake. Sorry. I just didn't notice that there's another cell in the same region. So the remaining options are 4, 6, and 3. So there's a 9 in here with 4 or 3. This is not 3, 4, or 6, or 9. I think this has to be the 6, surprisingly. 6, 4, not 4, not 4. This is 3 or 9. That doesn't require a pair anymore. We know the rest of this column. It is 2, 8. They have to be separated. Otherwise, they add up to 10. And the separating digit that's in the middle, come on, I should be able to see it. It's a 4. That 1 actually gave me a 6 in here, 1 in there. There's 2, 7, or 8. Where does 9 go? I mean, especially the 7 actually places the 8 and the 7. That 8 gives me a 2. This is the 9. This is not a 2 because the 2 goes there. That's the 2. To complete this region, it is a 4. That gives me an 8 in here. Can't be a 3 next to the 7. That's 9. That's 3. Am I just being blind here? Probably. There are probably more digits I can remove, such as this 2 is not there. This 7 is not there. So close to a triplet now, but not enough. That 7, that's a 2. That's not a 2. Still no triplets. Okay. Rest of this column though, this is 5 and something. 3, 4, 5. Interesting. Got 4 and 5 in here. That's a 3. This is 4, 5. That could still be 9, 4. So it doesn't actually help us with the 13 just yet. This column, yeah, 2 gives me an 8. Rest of this region, well, how about this one first? This is 1, 7, and we know the order. That's 7, that's 1. This is actually another 4, 5, and the 4 tells us that's the 5, that's the 4, that has to be a 9, that's a 6, that's a 5. This is grey, that's the grid entirely colored. 3, 13, 8, 8, 17, 21, 6, 17, 11, 5, 12, 12. Also 12, 15, 16, 7, 9, 17 and 8, 15, 6, 7. I forgot the 8. So, yeah, we're done. I say we're done. We're done with coloring. Where does 1 go in here? That's the 1. I need a 9 and a 7. 9 can't be next to the 1. That's 9. That's 7. I should be able to just write in this digit. It is an 8. This is not 1 or 9. That's a 6 up there. That gives me a 7, 1, and 9. And then just literally write in these digits, and then we're done. 2. 1. No, I've done 1. I've done 1 in the same region already. 3. And if I've not made any mistakes, 4 for the finish. 35 minutes. It's a beautiful puzzle, Scojo. And thank you for recommending it, Julia. Am I going to come back to Japanese sums? Let me know down in the comments. It is hard work. So let's see what the other puzzle I have planned for the weekend. I usually try and actually close off with an easier puzzle. Depending on the other one that I have in mind, it does actually require a lot of math, so this may end up being the Sunday evening puzzle, which I hope that you guys enjoyed. And thank you for the recommendation. Thank you for the puzzles, Scojo. And let me know in the comments whether there's going to be more Japanese sums. In the meantime, we do have a few irregular puzzles on the channel. They have their own playlist, so stick around for that recommendation on the playlist next. Bye-bye for now.